All right, everybody, we are back. It is the Slipstream F1 podcast post Saudi Arabia edition. The Jeddah Grand Prix at the Jeddah Corniche circuit just happened, and we are here to talk about it for the next little while. I am one of your hosts, Nathan, here with our other two hosts this week, Ian, back from out of the country.
We're back.
He's back, baby. And we have Steven here as always.
Sweet. Alrighty. Well, do we want to get started on the little rapid fire?
I think we should. Now that you're back, I think we'll go ahead and put you in the hot seat.
I don't think I have a
Uh,
choice this week.
Yeah, no, we're gonna make you. We're gonna make you regardless of whether you want to or not. But we'll go ahead and put 1 minute on the clock.
Perfect.
If you're ready,
Tell me when to start.
get set and go.
Perfect. So we're at Saudi Arabia at the Jeddah circuit. This is the first street race of the season, and this year there were 100% fewer missile strikes than there were last year, which is great. So we had some support races. We had F2, which was really good until Teo Pourchaire absolutely Latifi'd himself into Ollie Behrman. Qualifying was great. It was until it wasn't for certain teams with reliability and different wall taps that took out some strong drivers. Race start was clean unless you're a McLaren fan, and then it sucked. There were little fights here and there as Max and Charles absolutely destroyed the rest of the field until the Ferrari caught up with Charles, and it's awful. Stroll, he messed around so bad that the team didn't want him to drive the car anymore. Williams is so bad that the car didn't want to drive itself anymore. McLaren swapped their cars around 15 times in an attempt to drive out their pit of misery, and in the end, Sergio took the win while the Red Bulls limped home. Alonso had so much fun on the podium that he got it taken away from him. And so there we go. Is that under a minute? How
Right?
much time?
There we go.
Dang.
You just hit it. That was wow.
All
Impressive.
right, that was
First
fun.
time doing it. First time since he's back from out of the country. Wow.
Yeah, don't think I did that. I do have a script for everyone that's.
Shh, don't ruin the magic. Don't ruin the
I have a
magic.
script. It's okay. It's okay. I wrote it all out.
They're gonna know. That's okay though.
So there you go. There's your 1 minute, but we're gonna dive way more into that
Yeah.
throughout the episode.
First off, just thoughts about the race, just generally, the circuit, all of that. Anybody want to go first? I mean, I like the circuit. It's dangerous, but it produces some fun to watch races.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like Jeddah. I'll be very public with that opinion. It's not suitable for what they drive. I mean, yes, it's fast, and yes, it's built for the modern Formula car, but it's dangerous, and we've seen it become dangerous in the last few years. But I think over today was a pretty decent race. There wasn't a lot of traumatic events. There was no hospital visits, which I really enjoy.
That's
Um,
always a good thing at this circuit.
I do like watching Formula One, but I don't like people going to the hospital for my entertainment. And so, no, I think overall it was a decent. I mean, it was a pretty good race. There were fights here and there. Up to first place when Alonso and Perez were fighting it out to dead last when Logan Sargent was putting a masterclass against the very draggy McLarens.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, so no, I think overall, pretty decent race. And I'll give it to. I don't like the circuit, but it was a decent race for what it is.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. You're talking about. We'll get to the McLaren and the Logan Sargent battle later. But yeah, again, I think it was a pretty decent race. The circuit's a lot of fun to watch them go around, especially in qualifying. But yeah, it's questions that I have about the safety of the circuit and whether it's actually good for wheel-to-wheel racing still remain. And hopefully we won't ever have to come to this circuit again, or Saudi Arabia again. It's yeah, it's not good. I just keep thinking like every time I see someone like hit a curb, I'm just worried they're gonna lose it and be around a corner. Someone's gonna come flying at 200 kilometers an hour, and it's just gonna be a really really bad sight to see.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and this is really early for a tangent, but we talked about when during qualifying we were texting about, at least I was noticing, like those few spins that Logan Sargent had, that
Hmm.
Alonso had, when they spun, there was no yellow flag at all.
No.
And I get it, like they were just little spins and they ended up getting running 15 seconds later, but it's qualifying. That at minimum should be a yellow flag. And yeah,
Yeah,
and
at
so
times on this track, they're doing well over 300 kilometers an hour. For my American friends, that's 180 miles an hour. That's three. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like 180 miles an hour is three times what we drive on interstates around here. Um, and that's fast. That's really fast, and things go really wrong really, really quickly there.
I mean,
Yeah, and you just go back and forth, weaving around these corners, and it's really crazy. But uh, you know, I think the other theme of this race, aside from this track just being crazy and our safety concerns, were just the reliability concerns that we had all across the board. So many teams early season are really feeling some reliability troubles. Hmm.
it is, yeah, it's a multi-dimensional issue because if we're going to have all these breakages of different equipment, engines, gearboxes, drive shafts, electrical equipment, they're only limited so many of those each year. And that was a part of the original, not a part of a cost cap, but a part of an original, basically, so big teams like a Mercedes or a Red Bull wouldn't be replacing their engine every weekend, where smaller teams have to keep the same engines. And so that was a part of the first part of it, but now there is a real budget cap, and so if they're having to replace these, and yes, they take the grid penalties, that makes it harder. That makes it harder for them to keep up with that budget cap and keep developing their cars to a greater extent. And so, and especially, I mean, the customer teams like Williams, like McLaren, who buy their engines from other teams, those two specifically being Mercedes, that's difficult um, for them.
Is that what Mercedes has done? I mean, basically, right? Hmm. Interesting. Well, yeah, and I think, as Ian was talking about with how this was all to get underneath the cost cap to kind of make it more equitable for all of the teams, to kind of be on a level playing field, whether or not they could afford to replace these parts super often or just have a new one because the performance would be better. And I like the spirit of that, but I'm a little concerned we've gone too far with it. You have all of these potential, like, I mean, they're only allowed two ECUs, engine control units, a year. Two a year. That is crazy. They're only allowed two transmissions a year. Like all of these things that they're only allowed to have such few numbers of for such high performance. I get the whole engine unit, right? The internal combustion engine. Yeah, they shouldn't have 10 of those in a season. That doesn't make sense. But all of these other parts having two, I think, is the pendulum swinging too far the other way, and I think we're going to see some detrimental effects of that. Sometimes I don't know if the championship would change in this era, but definitely some of the lower order, rankings in the championship could change because of engine reliability and having to take grid penalties because you have to replace this part. And it just goes to show that like teams will pay for this part if they have to, right? So give them more freedom to pay for it, but not so much that it just hinders the smaller teams, you know? Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this just shows not only just Checo's ability, it just shows how good the Red Bull is, right? Checo Checo came from a team that wasn't very good. It had a good car one year. He was able to get a win in some very interesting circumstances, and then he's come to Red Bull, and he has now gotten four more wins on his belt. Three or four, definitely for sure. And he looks like a top driver. He looks like a championship contender in my view. And I mean, if Red Bull will give him a fair shake at it, if they will not play team orders, if they'll just let Max fight for it as Max will fight for it, but not favor him over Checo, I could see it getting really, really interesting this season.
Yeah, I think it is a better chance this year that they do give them the opportunity to fight with each other. Because last year, Max, it was a genuine concern of what Ferrari could produce on a weekend they were on it. Red Bull was in trouble with Ferrari. This year, they don't have to worry about that. The only thing they have to worry about is Alonso. But if he can't park his car in the right spot, they don't have to worry about that too much. And so I think this year they might be a little more willing to um, to let them fight it out. I don't know how they feel about two different drivers fighting it out. That's going to come down to them weighing the pros and cons of will Checo and Max end up like fighting in the paddock one day, and I don't you don't know. And I saw these really fun conspiracy theories on Instagram one day that said like Max could win the championship in Zandvoort and then like stop driving for the rest of the year, let Daniel Ricciardo take his seat, and then Red Bull could have a 1-2-3 in the championship.
That would be incredible. They should do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that would be so funny. That'd be insane.
That would be on.
Yeah, that development, the development cap.
Do you do y'all actually think, well, like Horner was saying, what Helmut Marko was saying this week? Do you think the gap will start to shrink, or do you think they're just playing a massive chess game? It should have been seventh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Ferrari is a bit of the Williams situation when Williams didn't have a team principal for the hottest minute. It's that kind of what their whole switch around of staff. It's a bit of that, a ship without a captain type situation. They don't know where they're going. They don't know whether to ditch the bird bath side pod design, which if you're new, that's what we call them because their side pods on the side of the car are just so big and so dipped. Do they ditch that? Do they keep going with it? They don't know. And Mercedes has a pretty much clear idea of this isn't working. We need to move on. Ferrari doesn't have that choice yet
Well, I don't even know
or
if
decision.
it's that Ferrari has a bad car so much as they don't know what they're doing as a team. Right? From a strategy standpoint, we saw them make one good call, which is the first good call they've made in ages when they had Sainz come in. I was questioning it at first, but then it turned out to be a very good call because the overcut worked very, very well on that pit strategy. And so, but then later on, they had another mistake with Charles where his strategist wasn't telling him to push in between the safety car lines, and he could have jumped. I guess was it Hamilton at that point? He could have jumped him at that point during that safety car window, and could have looked very different in this race if it had not been for that. And so Ferrari just can't get out of their own way.
I'd actually argue, yeah, they're doing better than expectation, but that doesn't fit your narrative, so keep going.
I think what Ferrari have done here, it kind of reminds me of something that's very close to all of our hearts. Is um, Mark Richt, right? Was never terrible most of the time.
You need to explain to our European audience who the heck that is.
So, University of Georgia, where we all have gone to university, I've graduated, the other two are about to graduate. It's our football team, our head coach, back in the day from the mid 2000s to 2013, 2014, that realm. He was our head coach and almost won a national title with him, made it to several SEC championships. We're very good at points, we're not good at points. But then, towards the end of his tenure, we weren't bad, but we knew that we could do better. We knew we had higher expectations. And I think back to last year, right? I think back to um, what what happened last year. You had Benito, right? You had a car that was clearly a championship contending car. You had the possibility of winning it all last year with that car and with the talent they have in those two drivers. But they knew they needed a change, and that's why they got rid of Benito. Will that ultimately do anything? Time will see. But again, it wasn't great under Mark Rick's replacement at first. Kirby Smart, his first season, we went what 6-6?
We
Yeah, something.
did
Yeah,
lose to Georgia Tech at home.
that happened. Yeah, it's like it's taking a step backwards, but with the hope that you'll take 5 steps forward after that. They might drop from P2 in the championship to P4 this year, right? It's looking very possible that that does happen, the way Mercedes and Aston look. But they do know that the goal is to win back-to-back world titles. Like Georgia, this past couple years have won back-to-back national championships, and so it's kind of that with the long term vision where you want to go, but you also know the people you have in place aren't going to get you there, and that's why they've made that change.
Yep. No, you're right. And I started thinking too during the race. Aston made a couple silly mistakes,
It was a disappointing day for Aston.
and I'm starting to think if Ferrari, if Mercedes, if Aston, even McLaren and other teams like that, if they're making a normal amount of mistakes, and Red Bull's just making fewer than normal, like Red Bull's not normal here. They're doing better. It's not like normal child, bad child. It's normal child exceeding child. And so yeah, I wonder, yeah, if Red Bull at this point, how many mistakes each team makes. Alpine's making mistakes. Everyone's making mistakes. But then Red Bull seems to be almost perfect week in, week out. I wonder if yeah, we're starting to see maybe just other teams are normal and Red Bull is just they have a really good head on their shoulders when it comes to strategy, when it comes to engineering. And so and I wouldn't call it getting lucky. Yeah.
Hmm. Long time. Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're very good now. They have seen the results now. They've won two drivers' championships. They've won a constructors' title and look very well on the way to another clean sweep of that. Um, but on to Aston. Disappointing day for them, like truly. Which is wild to say considering they got a P4 and were on the podium initially. To say that it's a disappointing day for Aston is something that I would not have thought we would have said at this point last year. But you had the Lance DNF with his brakes just exploding and him stopping on the track, but kind of off the track. I heard Crofty say that it was a magnificent piece of driving from Stroll, something I don't think I've ever heard anyone say about Stroll. But when he got it mostly out of the track, and there was some questioning about the safety car, but we already talked about how we think that was probably a good decision. But what I really want to talk about, more than Lance's braking problem, that's the Alonso podium. Or, well, the podium that was, the podium that could have been, but the podium that ultimately isn't. Would have been his 100th podium, but alas, the Formula One overlords said no. Mhm. Yeah, it wasn't even just to stop the car. It was like a stop the car, get it off the track, like stop on the track right now, just get stop, stop. They were like super concerned. Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, stop talking. Hang on. I've got a notification from F1's app. Alonso's podium reinstated.
What? You're here. You heard it here first.
Oh my gosh. I don't
How?
know. Let me pull up the article. I'm going to read this out loud. F1, don't sue us,
I'm
but
going
you,
on
you
Twitter.
you were the one that waited, so we get to read it out loud. Alrighty, it's loading. Here we go.
Man,
Yes,
so
I've
that
seen
reel I
it.
posted
My
45 minutes ago is
goodness.
already.
Alonso has regained after requested a right to review on Sunday night. Alonso briefly led the race, blah, blah, blah. He got taken away. George Russell got P3. Um, the stewards originally ruled that due to the rear jack touching the car prior to the 5 seconds having been elapsed, the penalty had not been served correctly. However, the FIA have now reversed their decision, releasing a document saying Aston Martin had submitted a letter of review for the 10-second penalty. In the way, oh wow, in support of petition for review, the stewards were shown minutes of the latest SAC meeting, what is SAC? Do y'all know?
No. I think it's the. I'm not entirely sure. It's one of
Might need
the
to look
like.
that one up. But some SAC meeting and video as evidence of 7 different instances where cars were touched by the jack, which is what I was talking about at the
Yeah.
beginning. That used to be what they did. I wondered if they had tightened up on it. And so this one was very similar. No penalty was given to those cars, but a penalty was given to car 17, and so therefore the podium is reinstated.
Here's what they said. Their argument was that they said while the focus may have been on the jack hitting the car, the regulations do not explicitly state that mechanics cannot touch it. The sporting regulations state, quote, while a car is stationary in the pit lane as a result of incurring a penalty in accordance with Articles 54.3a or 54.3b, it may not be worked on until the car has been stationary for the duration of the penalty. Aston Martin team principal Mike Crack said that he believed Aston Martin had followed the rules and did not work on the car until after the 5 seconds had elapsed. He suggested there was a certain ambiguity about the specific wording of the regulations. They're gonna all be like holding the jacks to the wheel hubs, just like ready to go. Yeah, let's go. Oh my goodness, what timing too to find that out.
Dumb. No. No, that's really cool. I'm glad that he got his
Wow.
100th podium. I'm sure George Russell is punching air right now.
You're just like,
Um,
no, no, no.
but it makes sense, and that's what I was saying before. This has happened before. You see them, and they don't push the jacks up, but they take the jacks and they stick it on. So when those 5 seconds are ready, they're ready to pump.
They like
And
nudge it on there ever so
yeah,
gently so that it's just ready to go, but it's not actually in the movement yet of happening.
and this is what with Ocon last week when he was at a place. I think he went to the stewards, and I think y'all were talking about that last week. Like he went to the stewards and showed all these different examples of the same scenario, but they didn't get a penalty. And so I think they're trying to make a consistency with the FIA, which is something they were criticized over in 2021, and they're working on it, and it's getting better. But they're going to get criticized by the drivers for it.
Yeah, this is interesting for so many reasons. I'm just thinking about how I have to remake that reel that I posted like less than an hour ago. I'm trying to think of what I'm gonna do. But yeah, no, it's wild the kind of inconsistency that we see from the FIA on instances like this. But yeah, wow, what timing to find that out. So I guess he has a podium again. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So it's not as disappointing of a day for Aston Martin. By the way,
No, I've actually.
he's cruising at 36,000 feet somewhere over the Mediterranean Ocean, Mediterranean Sea at this point. Like,
No,
with a little parachute on it. Yeah.
there's actually a video way back when, and I've seen it. I'm looking it up now. Um, this happened before Kimi Raikkonen had gotten on the podium, and after the race, like a day later, got it taken away from him. And so at the next race, I think it was the next race was Australia. There's a video, and he they got all the media there, and he handed off the trophy to the driver who had actually earned
Well,
it.
I will say, I really respect how George like handled it. Because I was watching some of the interviews afterwards, and they were asked about that. He's like, "Yeah, obviously, like we're excited to have a podium, but the rule was very, not great that it took them that long to figure that out, and they couldn't, Alonso had no chance to even fight to open the gap, things like that. So, we're happy, but definitely not a great day for Alonso. Feel bad for him or whatever. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's because I was gonna go all in on the rules here of like, why didn't they tell them about this 25 laps earlier? Because the infringement happened on like lap 19 when the safety car happened. It took them 30 laps to figure out that they had touched the car too early. And I was thinking through why that could have been, and I was going to be very upset at the FIA, but I was also like, maybe Mercedes waited till like 5 laps to go to lodge a complaint. Michael, I've sent you an email.
I'm taking screenshots now because F1 still has on their YouTube. Russell reacts to securing podium after penalty.
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a video of George. You know the video of him sad after Bahrain a few years ago when he almost won,
Yeah,
and I'm gonna put the same music over I did it for Alonso. But then I'm gonna like do some captions like George finding out he actually doesn't have the podium that he thought he had. That was supposed to be Alonso's and is now Alonso's again.
yeah. So anyway, so that's it's insane. But that is, I think we should move on from it just in case something else changes, and we'll just say like, oh, we already had posted the podcast. Sorry, y'all.
Oh.
So anyway, so what's the next couple? What's the next team that we? I think Alpine was probably up next. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, they were there.
they did. Yeah, they both cars were in the points, right?
Or was that its true form and we just saw a rare, lucky. Heck yeah. Twitter and Instagram, go follow.
And that's what it matters. I mean, quality, yes, it's important to an extent, but points come on Sunday. Yeah. So overall, I think they did good. I mean, Gasly, he pinched Oscar, which I don't think I purely think it's a racing incident. If you think otherwise, you're wrong. It was turn two, and Oscar was being a very rookie and kind of panicked in the moment. He didn't realize McLaren was so fast. He thought he would just start at the back of the field the whole time, and panicked when he was on the fourth row. Um, and or fifth row. And so yeah, so no, I think it was a solid weekend from them. Yeah, it stinks. Ocon was ahead of Gasly as our personal opinion on this channel, but Ocon, I mean, him and Sergio for whatever reason just absolutely dominate in Saudi Arabia every year, especially quality. Go for it. We're American.
Heck yeah. I don't like that though.
We
They were the
did.
Cincinnati.
I know they're bad. Alfa Romeo.
They were extra forgettable this today. Like
Yeah,
the just next level. What?
now, Yuki though, K Mag did get 10th place. He did pass Yuki, and Yuki was quite upset. I think it was the second to last lap. But how quickly? I mean, K Mag in a lap and a half. I'm looking at the numbers now. Was 3 seconds ahead of Yuki. So he was a second and a half a lap faster, almost, if give or take some change. The fact Yuki though defended against K Mag, if you watch the race, I mean, he held K Mag off for a solid 10 to 15 laps, which is, I mean, props to Yuki. I mean, AlphaTauri's slow. There's no denying that. Haas
Yeah.
is a little faster, I think. I think their race pace is faster. But the fact Yuki was able to hold him off, even if it is a straight circuit, is genuinely impressive. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yuki looked good. Hulkenberg, whew, he was shaking in his boots against Logan Sargent. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they were just there. The thing is with Williams is that it took me a second to remember who we were talking about. With Williams is that they have a car that is not. I don't think it's the worst car, but they don't know what to do in the situation where they're not the worst car. They've been so used to being the worst team for so long that now they're just surprised. And it shows a little bit. I think they made some poor strategy calls with Logan when they pitted him at the end of the safety car rather than towards the beginning. Even like I know they pitted Albon first, and they couldn't pit both at the same time because of how close they were together. But you could have pitted him on the next lap instead of when the safety car was ending. That's what confuses me.
No, they did,
It
Nathan.
No, it was 2 laps later. Yeah, it was 2 laps later because more of the field had like come together at that point, and I mean he lost a couple places on that, but like it ended up being fine. I know he gained a place, but still, I just don't know that they fully know what to do in the situation they found themselves in. Um, and I hate that because I want the best for Logan, and I like Albon too. I think he's a great driver. Um, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of grow into this role of not being the worst, not great, but they have the bones there to be a good team. And remember, they were without a team principal for a long time towards the end of last season and through the off season. Like they had no captain steering that ship. It was they had no football coach to do the recruiting and anything like that. It was a really rough off season for them, and they've produced a car that's not great, but it's certainly not. It doesn't look as unstable as last year, and it looks a little bit faster than last year. And those are two big wins for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Adequate. Well, that's the adjective for it. I think we just need elite. Yeah, adequate. It's about all they can do. Which, yeah, I think James. I mean, he did a lot of interviews this week with Sky Sports, and he seems genuinely like he's realistic, but not pessimistic. When what was his name? Frank Williams, when his daughter Claire was running the team, she was very pessimistic. Like she was realistic with the car, but because of it, she was like, "Yeah, like we're bad, and it's hilarious how bad we are." Where James is like, "Yeah, like it's not the best quality they had." Logan was P1 for a solid minute, and then they were like, "Oh wait, he ran wide," and it's like, how in the heck gets a street circuit? But no, I mean, he's like, "Yeah, it was like unfortunate qualifying, but we'll make up for it tomorrow." He's like, "Yeah, like we suck right now, but also we're gonna try and do our best." And I think that team it probably has reached its end via when it comes to energy and enthusiasm behind the working that they're doing, and he can help bring that back and not be some sort of cheerleader, but just know that they're chipping away slowly but surely, making a better and better car each year. And so yeah, no, I think James is probably the guy for the job. Some of the some of the people were definitely older. There was one guy, I think it was in 2019, 2020. They had fired finally one of their head designers, and he had been there since the '80s. And it was like, dude, still trying to like relive the Mansell days.
Yikes.
But
I think real quick we can do a rookie roundup.
oh yeah,
Yeah, they yeah, that's coming next. But first off, rookie roundup. Finishing order was Nick, spelled weird, DeVries, um, and then it was Oscar, also an Australian, down under Piastri. And then we had good old American Logan Sargent.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm. None of
not
them did really good this week,
not a great race for any of them. Not
but they're all
terrible.
driving. They're all driving tractors, so you can't really judge them too hard.
Yeah, I'd say Nick probably had the best race out of all of them. He finished really. Ooh, that is true. Ooh, mm. Yeah, and it's not like he had anyone behind him who was really pushing him. He had Sargent, Piastri, Lando behind him for the most part, and Valtteri like a mile and a half down the road behind him. So he wasn't really being challenged by anyone. And I guess that's a good point. You can look at in relation to their teammate, but also how they raced other people who were challenging them. I mean, Logan with terrible tires. We talked about this a little bit earlier. With terrible tires, bad strategy, really held off Nico Hulkenberg for a while. Really was in the fight there. Yeah, Hulkenberg held off. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, Hulkenberg held off Sargent. He was on hard tires that were lasting longer than Sargent's supposedly quicker medium tires. But Sargent was never able to get the move because his tires degraded very quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and that he could have kept Piastri ahead of him, but who knows? I mean, you can talk about what could have happened or should have happened all you want, but what happened is the way they finished, and that was De Vries, Piastri, Sargent.
it
Yes,
is. We got like 3 weeks though.
it is a hot second.
April 2nd. Actually, that's not that bad.
That's 2 weeks. Yeah, it's not
And
that
then
bad.
no, it's vice versa. So Australia's April 2nd, Azerbaijan is April 30th.
Yeah, normally we have Imola in between the two of those. I don't know why they flipped that this year.
Yeah, it's after Miami.
Weird.
Weird.
Well, award time. Very close.
Oh, so Logan spun and got so beat up in qualifying, he just gave up.
Yeah, he was really shaken because back to the qualifying thing real quick. That track limits penalty, BS. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It well, he didn't even cross the
Yeah.
pit entry line. He was past that, and there's that like that triangle of paint, one of his tires went partially over into that triangle paint, but far enough to where he couldn't block like the pit entry. It was clear he wasn't going into the pit entry. I mean, Yuki has gotten that penalty before, but his car, here's the line right there in the center. His car came like across the start of that line. Logan didn't touch it until well after it had started, and the pit entry was way off to his left by like probably 20 feet. Very
Yeah,
frustrating
it's
penalty in
that
my
little
view.
triangle, and basically the FIA released a statement to the driver saying you had to have all four tires. You could not go over that white line, and he did, trying to get an extra couple thousandths, and
If that, come on.
it didn't pay off. So it stinks.
Well, he won an award anyway.
Yep, he got an award. He would have gotten it anyways without that incident.
Ancient to Alfa Romeo. Yeah. They always have been. And I don't know, like, will they change in the Audi days? Will it become better?
Yeah, when they got Mick Schumacher driving at Audi,
Oh, it's going to be completely worse. No, he's
garbage.
not. He's
You're all
terrible.
liars.
He's
You're all
so
liars.
bad.
He's gonna win the championship in 2025.
You keep telling yourself that.
He was there this week. If y'all saw him on TV, he was
No, I didn't actually. I
giving
avoid
giving
Nick as much as
Toto
I
a
can.
massage.
Okay. I propose a new award. I propose the Yuki Tsunoda Radio Award, which is the angriest or funniest message on the radio each week. And this week, I propose two that we can choose from. I think we should only choose one for this one. It is either Yuki screaming, "Ah!" when he got passed, or we choose George, who says, "I'm pushing like a madman, mate." One of those two. I don't know which. Any thoughts?
I can't argue why, but I'll just say Yuki. I don't know why. It just feels better.
Yuki's?
It's his namesake award too.
Yeah, it does make sense that he would win it.
Mm.
Yeah. Truly, truly. Well, currently, I just want to go down our awards right now. Currently in the Mazepin Spin Award, we have a three-way tie for first between Carlos Sainz and Sargent and Alonso. So we're gonna keep tracking in on all these awards, see who wins the most, who wins the least, and we'll give out the ultimate award at the end of the season. So keep coming back for that.
Sweet. Well,
He makes his way back somehow. That'd be a crazier twist than Alonso getting his podium back.
that was fun. I'm
I
glad we
love
were
how
on
that
there
just
for that.
broke while we were recording. Yeah. Alrighty, well, thank you so much for joining us for this episode. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at SlipstreamF1Cast and follow us on Twitter. We have a Twitter now. Isn't that exciting? We've we do be tweeting. Our Twitter is SlipstreamPodF1. Not Slipstream F1 Pod. Do not follow that account. Follow Slipstream Pod F1. Slipstream Pod F1. I cannot make that more clear which one you should follow. Slipstream Pod F1.
Yep.
If it's
For the
not
softs.
a tire with the red font on it and like a gray background, do not follow that one. In fact, ooh, I like that. In fact,
Oh,
you should report and then block the other one.
stop making! Don't do that.
Okay, if it's not a tire, you should not inquire. That's all we'll say.
Yeah, leave
Again,
it to it.
Slipstream. Oh, Slipstream
Keep
Pod
going.
F1. Slipstream Pod F1. I cannot make that more clear. Alrighty, well, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for
Australia.
Australia, down under, upside down. We'll do the whole podcast. We'll flip our video upside down for that episode. Alrighty.
Perfect.
Peace out.